Hey guys, welcome back. So for this one, we're getting into Ultimate X-Men, written and illustrated by Peach Momoko. And right off the bat, this story feels like Stranger Things and the Persona franchise had a love child. It's incredible. So with that said, let's get into it. But first, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to catch the spills every week. And don't forget to hit that bell up top to get all notifications so we can squat up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so going into Ultimate X-Men, we start out in March, which places us around the time of your Ultimate Spider-Man issue 3, though now we find ourselves at Asako Ichiki's middle school graduation, and we're told early on, over the past few years she was barely here, but today she figured she'd show up, at least for the graduation ceremony, and we'll talk about why she hasn't been at school in a little bit, cause there's a lot of pieces in this story that slowly come together over time. But while she's here, this other little girl runs up to her to give her a second button, while telling her that it came from a boy who wanted to express that he likes her. And I'll admit, this Japanese tradition, it's new to me. But fortunately, we're shown within the lexicon that boys would give a girl the button closest to their heart as a way of showing how they feel for a particular girl they admire. But when this is done, the girl who gave Hisako the button, she runs away like, ew, laughing and going back over to her friends like it's part of some cruel prank. But Hisako notices there's a note on the other side of the button, so she takes a look and it reads, "Meet me at the temple in the mountain behind the school. Our time has come, my friend." And at first it has her a bit suspicious because she doesn't really have any friends at the school, because again, the past 3 years she hasn't been in attendance. But even with that being the case, she ends up going anyway, perhaps with the hope of making a friend. But after waiting a while and not seeing anyone, she starts to regret it, because now she's starting to think that this is part of the whole prank, like a DLC package for getting picked on. But after waiting here for some time, she catches a glimpse of another kid, who she recognizes right away, though at the same time she knows that it's impossible that he could actually be here. So she closes her eyes and shakes her head, because at this point she thinks she's seeing things. But when she looks up, she sees a shadowy figure, who tells her, "Hisako, I knew you would come." Hoping to make new friends? So of course right here she's like, "Who are you?" And she asks him if he's the one who left the note in the button. And he tells her, "I did. I needed some way to meet you since you haven't been going to school." So she then asks, "What do you want?" So he tells her, "To give you this," as he hands her a charm. And when she looks at it, she immediately remembers who gave this to her before. But before we even get into that, first I gotta point out that for us as the reader, this charm looks a lot like what we're more familiar with as far as 616 Isako's psionic exoskeleton armor. That's nearly impenetrable and insanely strong. And though clearly in this case it's not a one-to-one, but it's obvious who the design is referring to. And in addition to this, we're also given a bit more information about the Japanese lexicon, because we're also shown that certain charms can have different meanings, with some translating to "carry this to avoid getting in accidents while traveling." And it's a really cool concept, because the most I know about charms is that you can put them on your weapons in Overwatch 2. Because I got this one charm, it's like a glazed donut, but I'm not really sure what that means. And come to think of it, now I don't think I want to know. But either way, that's just a quick rundown as far as what's shown to us when she first looks at it. But like I mentioned before, as soon as she sees it, she recognizes it, because it's the same charm that was given to her by her friend Tsubasa, who Asako thought she just saw here moments ago. And the shadowy figure goes on to tell her that he was close to Tsubasa too. But the reason why she couldn't believe her eyes when she saw him is because Tsubasa's been dead for some time, because after getting picked on so much for so long, he eventually hung himself. And it's one of those things where Isako, she feels a lot of guilt because of it, because there were times when she saw him getting picked on and she did nothing. And instead of listening to him so she can understand how he felt, she was just like, "Come on, just tell him to back off. You can't just run away. It'll be okay." You know, just saying the generic phrases that just sound good instead of hearing them out and trying to come up with a solution. So the shadowy figure calls her out on this, and it tells her that it neglected him as well, only to bring all this together to tell Asako that they both killed Tsubasa together. And it's really just a way for the shadowy figure, who at one point in time is referred to as the Shadow Man, which I guess is what we'll call him for a little while, until we get to the big reveal, where right now a lot of people are saying they think it's the Shadow King, and I totally agree, but we'll get to that. But again, with the Shadow Man trying to guilt trip her and tell her things like she knows she contributed towards Tsubasa's death, this is just the method that he's using in order to feed Asako's guilt, which sounds a lot like the Shadow King, since it's said that he's the multiversal manifestation of the dark side of human consciousness. And furthermore, if this turns out to be what we're dealing with, it could potentially lead to a story that stretches across the Marvel Universe, almost like a Shadow King saga if you will, because the Phoenix Force needs a break. But it's right here where the Shadow Man tells Asako, "I quit running from my problems. My eyes are open. The time for sorrow is over. Now is the time for vengeance." So she closes her eyes and covers her ears in hopes that he'll go away, and when she opens them, he's gone. But then there's a straw doll sitting in front of her, which is one of those things that's never really a good sign, because as she goes to check it out, she feels a dangling foot on the back of her head, only for her to turn around and see what looks like the body of Tsubasa hanging, which at this point just causes Sako to do the most logical thing that she could, which is run and scream like crazy. But when she does, she's followed by the voice of Tsubasa, telling her, "Why are you running away? You're the one who told me not to run," which now has her looking back while she's going full speed forward, causing her to nearly be hit by a car. But at the last second, her psionic exoskeleton armor comes out, and it protects her. And at the moment, it isn't really clear if the driver was also under the influence of the Shadow Man just moments before, because all we really know in his case is that he noticed her at the last second. But for Asako, with her psionic exoskeleton armor coming out here for the first time, this has me thinking of a lot of things. Because for one, this traumatic experience, it comes off like this is the manifestation of her mutant power. Though at the same time, it also feels like there's a connection between her armor and the charm she was given by Tsubasa. But then the third thing is that her armor seems to be sentient, which right there is the main thing that gave me the whole Persona vibe. Because for Ultimate X-Men to be starting out with a story like this, I can imagine why some people might feel like, okay, this is way different than your traditional X-Men story. But I'm really digging it so far, because for me, because it's starting out this way, in Japan with the manga style delivery, it just has me thinking how this story, from what we've seen so far, would translate so well into a Persona style JRPG, where the X-Men start out like the Phantom Thieves, with it being a bunch of kids who come together to face an intangible threat that the normal world can't see or doesn't really know about. Though for the Ultimate X-Men, it would be their powers instead of everyone having a persona. But yeah, I couldn't help but to think if this was a turn-based JRPG on the Steam Deck or on the Switch with the anime style cutscenes, I think it would be crazy. But nonetheless, it's really the fresh take that Peach Momoko's given with this story that has me excited for what could be around the corner. So from here, the next day we head over to the home of Asako, where for a while now she's still blaming herself about Tsubasa, but eventually she gets up and races her way right back to the temple. And when she gets there, she's once again met by the Shadow Man, who tells her that she only came back because she felt guilty, or perhaps that she's here looking for her diploma because she wouldn't want to leave it here as evidence. So he tells her this will be easier if she just joins him. And it gets to the point where she just tells him that this isn't about Tsubasa's death, so why don't you tell me what you really want from me? Which from here just has him spazzing out just before trying to attack her again. So Asako's exoskeleton comes back to protect her. And once again, it comes off like she's not really sure how this is happening, which again brings back the element where it's like her psionic exoskeleton armor is consciously coming forward to protect her. Cause again, she's just got her eyes closed and her ears covered as she keeps yelling this is a dream, and her armor more or less just handles it. But right here, in a moment that would seem like victory is imminent, the Shadow Man ends up telling her that he's gonna let her in on a secret, with that secret being that his curse is already in motion, and the first victim is somebody that Asako already knows. And it's a bit of a twist that flips everything on its head, cause for a moment here Asako gets the Shadow Man to fall back, the dark clouds begin to recede, but when he brings back the appearance of Tsubasa, again it's like, oh yeah, he did say the curse had started, so now when he picks up the charm and he tells Asako it's too late, it just gives you this feeling that something bad has already happened, and you can just see in her expression that she knows this isn't good, even though she has no idea what this means. But right after this, her phone rings, so he tells her that she should answer it, and when she does, it's here where she gets the news that Tsubasa's coach hung himself. And aside from that, there's all sorts of rumors that are going around talking about how this coach used to bully Tsubasa, and with hearing this, I can't help but to imagine that this coach was a lot like Kamoshida from Persona 5. Cause Kamoshida was a jerk and only the students really knew, and I just imagine it was a similar situation going on here. But furthermore, after Asako gets this call, the dark shadows go away and she says to herself something unimaginable is happening. It feels like all our sins, all the dark secrets we hid away, some cruel power has torn off the lid and let it all out, to where from there she questions who is this Shadow Man, as well as this other energy she's continually feeling that wants to protect her. So yeah, I gotta say, I'm enjoying this series, because I imagine that these new Ultimate X-Men are gonna be just a bunch of kids who are brought together to stop this common threat, and as more characters come along with their unique powers, it builds into a team of outcasts who are like the only ones who can do something about it. So yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And so now real quick, I'm gonna give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.